So, to continue on with our turn-based tactical game, we have to take care of a few stuff with the level editor. Okay, and this is a perfect opportunity to expand a bit more. So what we're going to do today is create basically a menu so we can load the way we were loading the levels before, and we can also save them. So I've changed a bit the menu, but all the functionalities remain the same. And the new stuff I've added is it's made basically dialogues for this stuff. So if I click save level, I will get a dialogue that has an input value, and let's call this test level, save, and you will see that it automatically opens the load level menu. Okay, when I click the load level, and depending on what I select, it's going to load that level. Okay, and if I want to click new level, it's going to reset, then start all over again. So before we start, we're going to need a streaming assets folder, and we're going to be saving all our levels over here. Of course, you can use your own folders or use something similar with the previous videos, but I'm going to keep this one here because I know that I can do changes over here, and on every build it comes with us. We're also going to create, we're not going to create, so basically I'm going to assume you know how to set up all this stuff and the UI. As for the save level dialog, it's a simple save level. Okay, it has an input field, and we're going to go when we are seeing the script, we're going to go on more detail on what exactly we assign over here, and all that. Okay, and just a simple script with two buttons, and these buttons over here are also a simple script that take on their own click event, that take a function from the either the interface manager or the level manager. In our case, we also call the level manager game object. So let's go into our scripts. We will take care first of the interface manager, since we have most of our bulk. We're going to need all these namespaces. Now, previously the only thing we had over here was basically an on mouse event on enter and on X. So if the mouse was over the background, it was turning the mouse over UI element to true, so you basically couldn't paint. Now we will change this a bit, and we're going to do it on update. We're going to call the event system the current event, and if the is pointer over a game object, and then it's going to be turning that into true. So this is a simple way to know that your mouse is basically over a UI element, so do not do any behaviors you want to do there. The rest of the stuff, we're going to basically need references for our menu. The loading level grid is basically a grid that goes inside the load button, and it's the level grid, so every button that it's created over here, it gets into the grid as you saw on runtime. So on runtime, basically it's this script over here that makes the buttons so. An array of game objects that we want to disable, just so that we do not have different. I can add all the game objects of a main menu over here, and just simply close that and enable that again when I open the save level dialog, when I open this, and of course when I close this. Level save load is the script we saw on a previous video where we handle our serialization and all that. and the load level UI button prefab is a prefab for the UI for the loading level, so basically for these buttons. It also has a load level UI button script. It takes from the level editor and the Unity engine UI, and it also takes a text string of level name, and on click it has the behavior over here from this script, load level, and what it does is basically goes into the level save load get instance and uses the change. Previously we only had load level button without taking anything on the name. Now we will be passing the string and the level name basically. Okay, and we can use a new function which we're going to see in the interface manager that basically closes and loads the level grid, the UI, the interface for the level grid. Okay, so if it's open, it's going to close it, and if it's closed, then it's going to open it. In this case, since you're probably pressing a load level UI button, that means that the UI was open. Back to interface manager. On start, what we need to do is basically close the load level grid. Okay, goes to the load level game object and closes that. The save level dialog, we want it closed. We initialize the save level save load. We made this into a singleton, and it's actually something we did over here. It's a new thing, so you need to add the singleton. And on awake, we also have this one that's going to read. We're going to see, okay, that it reads all the files that we have inside our folder, inside our streaming assets folder. It's going to read all them, and it's going to see based on the prefix, and it basically knows that it's a level based on the prefix. So after that, we basically want to create the UI buttons for every variable levels. So basically what it does, the level save load checks for all the files and that are basically levels, and it goes and populates this new list we have over here, which basically is just a list of strings where we store only the files or only the file names over here that we have inside our folder, and we only going to store the file names that start with level underscore. Back to the interface manager. So what this does is, for each string entry we have into our available levels list, it's going to create a new game object with a load level UI button prefab. Okay, as a game object, it's going to set its parent under the load level grid, and it's going to get the component of the load level UI button we have on our prefab, pass the name from that available list, and pass on the text you see on the button, pass also the name, so you actually saw the actual name of the level. Okay, so if I rename this one, it's going to rename it also over here. The only important thing in this is that you keep the prefix of level, and that of course is the way I've set it up over here. There are other ways of course to do that, but since this one works just fine, I don't see why change it. So the other stuff we need to have is basically all our public functions that we're going to be dropping into our buttons. Open close level grid checks if the game object of the load level grid is active, then it closes this one, or open it. Okay, either makes it active or disables it. Open save level dialog just opens the game object, and for each game object we have into other UI, it closes it, and the load level grid also closes it. And close save level dialog Okay, just closes it and re-enables all the other simple stuff. On awake, we set up the singleton, since this is also a singleton. Or when we are clicking the new level button over here, and this is the function we have actually assigned to the button, this one. Okay, we need the reference to, we can do two things. Either use scene manager load scene and basically get the active scene and reload it again. And or the other thing that we're going to see when we are loading the level, you can keep both, you can keep only one, it's entirely up to you. Since the scene is already loaded in the memory, I don't think it pretty much will matter with this. Okay, since it's already in memory, it's not going to take long to reload. So the other thing that we also need to keep over here is because when we are saving the level, we're basically creating a new level. So that means we have to recheck all the levels we have. Okay, so we have to recheck all the new levels and create new UI buttons and all that. So what we do in this case, we basically find every game object that has a component of button and it's also under the load level grid, and of course that means it's the buttons for each level. So for each button we basically go and destroy that game object. We clear the variable level list. Since we only store the strings, that means we only have to clear the list, and then go call into our SL was level save load. SL stands for save and load. Okay, and we call the function to load all file levels, and then we create the UI buttons for available levels from the start. Since the load all file levels, all it does is goes into the available level list and adds the entries, then we can simply call this one once again, and it's going to basically recreate the UI buttons for the load level. So if I write something over here, okay, you will see that we automatically enter the level prefix in the front. Okay, we do that from script, so you only have to worry about writing the correct name. Now let's go see the changes we have on the level save load. For the most cases, we're going to keep the serialization pretty much the same. As I mentioned before, on the save level button and the load level button, where they now will be taking a string of level name. Okay, so previously we were using a hard-coded name. This time we'll just be passing the level name, and we can use, since we are saving the level over here, we can say to the interface manager, go and reload the files. Now if we want to load the level button, we simply pass also the hard-coded name. The changes we need to do is on save location. Previously we were using the persistent data path. We will change that to use the streaming assets folder. So we do that by using application.streamingassets path, but since we might have something else in there, we also need to say just add a new folder of levels. If that directory doesn't exist, it's going to create the directory. And if we are also passing, if we are saving, or if you are checking for the location, because we can use this not if we are loading, not if we are checking for the location, because we will be using the save location in cases that we do not want to save. Okay, you will see that if I'm saving, if I say that I call this from the save function, it's going to automatically add the prefix of level before the level name, of course. Or you can do something like .level in the end. Okay, it's entirely up to you. And then return. If we're not saving, we only want to return the location without the prefix of the level. Well, basically we use this on the load level actual, not load level actual, load level, where we check if the file exists. Okay, what we're using is the same function for the save location. Yeah, not over here. Over here you need to have the prefix, so we're passing it. No, you don't need to have the prefix. Okay, so if you use this with true in the end, then the file, let's try it so you can see what I mean. It's going to be add one more prefix if we do that into the debug or the level, if you will. Okay, you can see that the name is level underscore level underscore. So of course that's we do not want, so we get a debug error that we can't find the level. So let's delete that and let's leave it by the basic initialization that it's false. So we will find the level, we will keep doing what we were doing and then load the actual level. And this is pretty much the same as before. So the other thing that we have to change, that we have to add basically, is the load all files, all file levels. And we do that inside the awake, since we made this a singleton and we want this to be initialized before the start runs, before the start function runs. Then we want to do this over here. So what this function does is it needs a directory info, which we save it over here, and we pass it with a new directory info. We need to pass the asset, the actual path, and in our case, the actual path we want to look at is application.streamingPath plus levels. Notice that I do not have an underscore like this, not an underscore, a backslash like this. So for each file we have find inside our directory info, we store it into another array that is called file info. Okay, and we use that basically a function from that takes from directory info. It's called get files. Now this is basically from the namespace of system input output. Okay, so you need to add the using system input out, but since we were doing serialization we probably already have it. So for each file info we need to see if we actually took all the levels, or if we actually have files that are actual levels. We need to do this because if you save something inside streaming assets path, Unity, while you are in the editor of course, Unity will also save it as a .meta file. One other thing also, if you save the level, the Explorer will not update directly, so even if you save it and get out of here, get out of play, if you go into the Explorer, then you will see the folder, but the next time you will be going inside Unity, then you will see it inside Unity. Okay. Now, of course, this is only for the editor. So for each file, we need to read the name. To read the name, we basically split the name into two parts, into an array, and we split it every time we find an underscore. Okay. If the read name has a length of 2, that means it starts with a prefix, and if the level, the first prefix, the first part of the name is equal to the level, that means a level. We need to make sure that it's also it's not a meta file. So we check if it is. So we check if the second part, we basically split the name again, and if the second from the second part and on, okay, and if it's not, if the array it returns is not 2 parts, that means it's not the meta files, because we basically split the name once again every time we find a dot. Okay, just a simple way. Of course, you can do it instead of checking for the level. You can add the dot level at the end instead of adding it in the front, and so on. Now, if it is an actual level, we only want the name of that level. So we basically populate the available levels list. We read all that, and we create buttons. Every button has a reference to the name of the file, and when I'm clicking it, it goes into the level save load script, into the script. It goes to the load level button, to this function, loads the level with this. Okay, and so on and so on. Now we drop this one inside awake, and we can continue on, and we're pretty much done with the level save load. Some other changes I did on this. Let me see if I have something on the level manager. So on my level manager, what I did is create 2 public game objects that has wall holder and object holder. Basically, it's a game object that we're going to be parenting all the walls underneath and all the objects underneath. Okay, and I do not want them to show in the inspector, but I want to change them. So instead of making them functions that return these game objects, just hide them in the inspector. So, of course, we need to initialize them on start. We create new empty game objects and change their name. And now, every time we create a new object, we also need to create to parent them under that object. So for instance, when we're creating a wall, we need to go somewhere over here. At least I think it was. Yeah, we basically, it's not really needed, but you can also see that we already be adding them into a list of walls, in scene walls. Okay, so even if you're not doing it, it's not really that bad. But over here you can also do the actual game object that you parent is on the manager and parent it under the wall holder. So with this in mind, we can go now into the level save load script, and when we load in the actual level, when we create the level objects, add the level objects underneath over here, basically parent it under the level manager object holder, and also add it in the in-scene game objects list. Okay, this is what we actually forgot to add on the previous part. Similarly to when we are creating the stackable level objects, do exactly the same. Paint tiles will always be down, so this doesn't need to change. And if we are creating the walls, we need to do the same, add them on the in-scene walls list, and also parent them under the wall holder. So the other thing that we also need to add is basically the clear level, and it was load all files. On the level manager, I've added a new public function that goes and says game object. For every game object you have in your list of instance game objects, destroy them all. For every you have inside your instance stackable objects, destroy them all. Instance walls, destroy them all, and clear all your lists. So basically, every time I'm going to click to load the level on my load level actual, okay, it will come in, it will go into the level manager and clear the level and then proceed to create the other the ones that it just loaded. So if I comment this out, you will see that when I click play, load level test level 1, yeah, it doesn't have anything new. Okay, it has this, but if I click level 1, it didn't unload the previous scene. It only loaded it adds everything together, so it's not what we want. We want to clear the previous scene and do that. So basically you can do this inside your interface manager, where I say new level instead of scene manager, and it will take care of all the object, but it will keep the paint texture. So if I paint over here and add a few objects, let's add something else or whatever. Okay, if I click new level, it's just going to keep all the same textures on the tiles. But of course you can also do a paint all, and from the level creator, let me find it first. Paint all. Let's see if it's public. Yeah, it's public. So let's do this. Although I think, yeah, we will need to pass the reference also to the level creators, but let's not do that. So basically you can make the level creator a singleton too. I come over here and say level creator, get yeah, it will now run as an error, but I get instance dot paint all, and you can also change the levels creators if you get instance. And if you also change the material to place with the first one we have into our resource manager, into over here, okay, then it's going to be the same as loading the scene. Or you just can not do anything of that and just reload the exact same scene, since it's the exact same scene. And reloading the exact same scene also makes sure that you have everything unloaded properly. Okay, and it will also reload all the levels, all the file levels you have over here. So basically that was it for today. We're going to do another one of these parts for the level editor, and then continue on the tactical turn-based system. So you know what to do. Get involved, go like, subscribe, share it with your friends, your family, or whatever. And if you also like the videos and want to help me to keep making them, of course, then consider supporting me on Patreon or by grabbing a project on Gumroad. So I'll see you next time.